So my superstition lately of predicting Forest to draw 0-0 in every game so that we win has been working. This could actually be the first time that prediction is right. Welcome to the preview for Everton versus Forest. Good morning, good evening, or good night. Hope you guys are doing well, and welcome to the preview for Everton versus Forest, the PSR derby. And this is a game where a lot of people would have thought this would have been a 6-pointer, but no, not with Nuno. If you're enjoying the content, please don't forget to hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed here if you're new, and make sure you're subscribed to our second channel, the Footy Network. The link's pinned in the comments. And let's jump into this one. And as always, get your score predictions in for this game, because I think this is going to be a fascinating chess game. I don't think this is going to be a high octane football match, because the best way I could describe this encounter is Forest a good version, or a really good version of Everton. Let me explain what I mean there. I think Sean Dyche would love to be playing and scoring and defending the way Forest are. We're just doing what he would like to do with better players, better managers, and better manager and a better tactic. Does that make sense? Because they're very similar in their philosophies, the fundamentals, should we say, of their philosophies when it's Dyche and Nuno. Build from the back, try and get counter-attacks, and what have you. It's just we have pace and they don't. We have M and they don't. They do have Branthwaite, good player, I'm not denying that, and I think they have a little sprinkling of good talent in that Everton team. And I've got nothing against Everton. This may shock some of you guys. Everton aren't a team that really are on my hate list. But are they on yours? Let me know in the comments down below. So yeah, I think this is going to be a fascinating tactical match, because neither team really want the ball. Both teams prefer to play out of possession football. Now, with Everton being the home team, the onus is going to be on them to have to be on the front foot. And will that suit them or not? Because that's not how they've been grinding out their results. Now, they have turned their form around. Everyone seems to know the Dyche rule. They don't win in August. He don't win in August, mate. And then slowly but surely, he finds a way. They've had real tough matches lately. I think they've played Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea, drawn with all three of them, two of them 0-0. The last one, Man City, I think they should have won, to be honest, but ended up drawing one apiece. Even Everton didn't lose to Man City, man. Charity FC. Anyway. So this is going to be fascinating to see. And from Nuno's perspective, how does he want to approach this game? Does he want to play into Dyche's hands and say, like, okay, you don't want the ball. Let's see what my boys can now do with the football. And can we go and take the game to you and dominate you and then break you down, because you haven't really got the pace on the counter-attack to hurt us, especially with the pace of Murillo at the back and Einar, for example. So what do you guys think? Would you like to see Nuno more on the front foot in this game? Or would you like to see him kind of do what he's done all season, get the results, get the 3 points, keep those dubs coming in? Let me know in the comments. All right, so let's talk about some injury updates first before we jump into the predicted team sheet. Again, I haven't seen the official team sheet, so don't look for any subliminal messages or anything like that in this video. But what was I going to say? Yeah, the injuries. So Nuno finally was asked. Finally, a journalist asked the question that should have been asked about 6 weeks ago. Where's Danilo? Where's Sangare? And he did answer it. Not very uncryptic, but he did answer it. He said, you know, they're not a million miles off. He expects them to be here in the short term rather than the long term. So they're not far off. We think Danilo will be back early Jan, and Sangare, our understanding, again, no journalist has asked, is that he picked up a new injury post his hamstring injury, and that's why his delay's been longer. Because remember, initially, he should have only been out for 2 months. It feels like 2 years at the moment. The other thing to make of note is that Ryan Yates is suspended, so can't play in this game. Dominguez is back and available for selection, having served his suspension. And there are a couple of others who are on the borderline of being suspended. I think it's Nico Williams. It might be Morgan Gibbs-White and Jota Silva and someone else. I forgot who the other one was. You lot tell me in the comments down below. So if they pick up yellows, they could be suspended. So potentially you could see Nuno making some changes for that. Although I don't actually understand the logic of that, because if a player is dropped because you're worried about him getting a suspension with one suspension cycle left, then haven't you just technically suspended him? And if he played and didn't get the yellow card, then he wouldn't have been suspended. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so those are the injury updates. In terms of the rest of them, it will be stuff to do with like rotation, keeping people fresh. We did only play Spurs KFCFC the other day, so it's about keeping people fresh. So let's go into the team sheet and let's start our discussion on that. All right, so here's the team that started against KFC Hotspurs, and it's definitely not going to be the same team. As we know, Yates isn't going to start, so we can scratch that one off the bat, which, by subject of logic here, means there's only really two options that can happen. That you get the straight swap with Dominguez coming back in alongside Anderson, and I don't mind this one. I think this one looks pretty balanced. I just don't know if Nuno fully trusts Dominguez, if I'm being honest with you. Dominguez, I don't think has featured as much this season. So that's option number one. The other thing I would say is we're playing a few games in a short space of time here, and rotation definitely has to be considered. I'm not necessarily talking about players being in and out of form, because I think most of our players currently, you could argue, are bang in form. But squad rotation, fitness, etc., that has to play a part in it. So I think there could be a couple of changes. One of them, and I wouldn't be up for this, would be Nico Williams coming out for Moreno, to come in, because for two reasons. And let me talk you through the logic. As I mentioned, Nico Williams is one yellow card away from a suspension, and Moreno should be fresh now. He hasn't featured in the last couple of games as a starter, and therefore I could see that happening. But I think Nico Williams has played really well, especially at left back. As I've always said, I think he's a better left back than he is a right back. So that could happen. The thing I think might happen, just to surprise Everton a little bit, is the change in formation into that back three. Now, I've got this feeling in the back of my mind that Nuno liked it's not in the back, it's in the front of my mind. He definitely liked what he saw against Brentford. And I think he will look at the 3-4-3 as his preferred away formation selection option. And I think as well, that means he doesn't have to play Dominguez if he does that. So what I think will happen tomorrow is he does switch it up, and he'll go with that Morgan Gibbs-White Anderson combo in the middle, which I really liked against Brentford. And then, Rob's boy Morato is coming in. So Milenkovic will switch across to the right-hand side, Murillo into the middle, and then the big man comes in there. Now, why does this work so well, in my opinion? Because of this young man right here, Murillo. Because he will step up. You've still got these two brick walls behind him, and it just plays as that floaty CDM, if you like, which allows Anderson and Morgan Gibbs-White to release. It also allows Murillo to release, knowing there's more than just Milenkovic covering him. So my gut feeling says he switches to the 3-4-3. Now, the other thing that's just niggling away a little bit at me is Hudson-Odoi and Chris Wood. Excuse me. I think we might see rotation of Chris Wood for Taiwo. I just think Chris Wood looks knackered. He's played too many games for me. My worry is he could pick up an injury if we just keep playing him. This is not a bad game to try and give Taiwo a run out. purely on rotation. I'm not saying because Wood hasn't scored in 2 games or whatever it is. I just think you gotta give Taiwo a couple of minutes. And the other rotation I'd think about would be Callum Hudson-Odoi. He's another one I think could use just the game out to freshen his legs up. And if you were gonna do that, just a little left field, Sosa. Try him out for a game. Get him to start. See what the kid's got. Oh, he's not really a kid, is he? Was he 24, 25? I don't know. I can see that going on. For me, the important stuff here is the width, because Everton play really narrow. We've got to make sure that we're attacking them on the width, because they tend to play a 4-5-1. And Ben and Ant's boy Mangala has been actually sensational for them. Him and Idrissa Gana Gay with Doucouré dropping in, block out that midfield in a midfield 3. Now, that means that the width they struggle with because they haven't got pace. Harrison's not a quick player, the one they've got. I think he's still on loan from Leeds. And you've also got McNeil, who I think should be available for this game. He hasn't got pace. I know he scored against us at home last season, but McNeil for them will be key because he's their set piece taker. And while he's been out, they've struggled to score goals because most of their goals have come from set pieces this season when he's been taking it. So that is, you know, we should be able to attack them on the width and beat them for pace. And then at fullback, you got Ashley Old, who we owe for last season. Big time. That cheating little scumbag. And probably their player most in form is Branthwaite and Pickford. He's been keeping them in games. He's kind of almost taken the responsibility on his shoulder in terms of the goalkeeper. So, you know, it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be an ugly game. And now I've said that, it's probably going to end up like 5-4 to Forest or something. But it's like, what happens? What happens there? Now, for me, their big threat is Ndiaye. I rate him. I actually wouldn't mind him at Forest. He can be quite skillful and tricky. They've tended to use him more out wide. I don't know if he'll start for them or not. I hope not. But we will see on that. Prediction-wise, I'm going to say 0-0, and I actually, for the first time, believe it could be 0-0. I think both are defensively very, very strong. I know Everton have conceded a lot of goals, but that was earlier on in the season. With Branthwaite coming back in, he seems to have shored it up. They got Tarkowski as his partner at the moment. They seem to be working really well. And of course, I think the big change for them is Mangala settling into that team. So I'm going to go 0-0, but I do have a sneaky feeling we could probably win this 1 or 2-0. But, you know, superstition is superstition at the moment, and I've got to say 0-0. Get your predictions in down below. So we'll be back for the watch along tomorrow. Make sure you tune in for that. Looking forward to reading your thoughts and expectations ahead of this game in the comments down below. Please do subscribe to our second channel, the Footy Network, if you haven't already. And make sure you've hit the like button on here. Subscribe to FFTV if you are new. We'll see you on the next one. Come on, you Reds.